that my story was way bigger than myself. And I think that belief from a very young age, like, was pivotal for me. There are people who never understand that their story is bigger than themselves. And I had to learn that from a middle school age. I had to learn that in high school, that this story was so much bigger than myself. And I saw the impact it had on other people's lives. And I said, this is not a waste. This is not for nothing.
This is the Legacy Maker Show. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm super excited to welcome our episode number 8. I can't believe we're already here, and it's because of you. I want to thank you so much for engaging and for sharing. I am stoked about today's guest. I am super excited. He was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and he has always been passionate about community and service. While he was studying psychology in the Christian Dallas Baptist University, he also worked in Youth World, a nonprofit serving Dallas youth. He later helped to launch Authentic Church in Arlington, Texas, where he led the student ministry. However, in 2020, Sam and his wife took a leap of faith and launched a clothing brand during the pandemic, blending into that desire to continue to find their purpose. They felt a calling and a draw to go back to Austin, where he now leads an adult ministry at Christian Life Austin. Continue his mission to cultivate thriving, faith-driven community. He's an amazing leader, a loving husband, and a powerful son of God. Will you please help me to welcome my dear brother, Sam Lee? My brother, Sam, how are you, sir?
Man, I am great. After an introduction like that, I'm feeling awesome.
Man, thank you so much for accepting this moment. I am so excited to dive into your life and your passion, but moreover, dive into your legacy building. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. It is a huge honor, Roger. In the short amount of time that I've known you, you've had such a huge impact in life. And so this is a huge honor for me to be here today and be having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Sam. And for many of you, Sam is obviously an incredible man of God, but he is also one of my son-in-law's best friend, Drex, and he tells me all what Sam is doing. And I'll tell you what, guys, I wish we had an entire day to dive into all the things that God is doing through him and through his ministry. So I'm super excited, Sam, that you are here today. But Sam, before we go into how you build your legacy and how you start that, can you just take us back to the beginning? What was the condition in which you were born in, and how did that affect your life in the beginning?
Yeah. Well, when I was born with a physical condition, and a big part of my story revolves around that physical condition. And I was actually, and my spine was disconnected. It's a crazy, radical story. And so really from the age of about 6 months, I was in a little body cast. And this is what I've heard, and I've seen pictures and everything else. And so for about 6 months of my life, I was in a body cast until I had a surgery at the age of 6 months old, in which they performed a spinal fusion, and they actually fused my spine back together. It's a super intriguing, surgery. They took out a rib of mine and actually broke it up and created a spinal fusion. And so anyways, that was really my introduction to the world, was a back surgery, and kind of how things started for me.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. What did the doctors and the people around you say about your future? I mean, obviously, here you are with spine. Were they thinking that you were not going to be able to walk? What was their diagnosis? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you hit the head on the nail. Many doctors actually told my family that I would never walk. That was the consensus, that there was a low chance that I was ever going to be able to use the lower extremities of my body. So majority of them believed that for all of that time leading up to the surgery, and then also after the surgery. They weren't sure if I'd ever walk. And so it took time before I would learn to walk, but they never actually believed that was going to take place.
My goodness, that is crazy. So what did that? Obviously, the doctors are doing their best, and they are doing what they're called to do, exercising their gift. But I understand that your mother had an incredible, crucial role in this journey that you started in this through surgeries and things like that. Can you describe her faith and how does this kind of play alongside with what the doctors were doing at that time?
Yeah, yeah. I have an incredible mother. And I think even before getting to my mother, I also want to just give honor to my grandmother. My grandmother played a huge role in this as well. She took me to all my doctor's appointments just growing up, from that 6 month range there. And I hear the stories all the time about the doctors telling my grandmother, he'll never walk. And my grandma saying, by faith, he will walk. And standing up boldly and saying, no, 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 that's not the truth. That's not the truth that I know. And so she was fiery and she was bold. And I'm sure the doctors were like, whatever, this crazy woman doesn't know what she's talking about. But hindsight, look who's laughing now. And so my mother, of course, she played a huge role in this whole entire process.
Yeah.
He was there with me along the entirety of the journey. And one of the interesting things about my story is that my mother was actually under just a tremendous amount of, I would say, tension. This actually, my initial surgery, which is kind of interesting. I had a surgery 6 months. That spinal fusion actually broke later
No
on. And
way.
when I was in kindergarten, they had to come back in and whole other spinal fusion. Now, this actual surgery is one that I actually remember, that I have vivid memories from. And this one was much different because my father had been in the military for about 15, 20 years. This is also taking place simultaneously around the same time as 9/11 happening. So the war, the brink of the war. And so my father is actually about to be shipped off. Crazy turn of events. He had actually put in, months and months before that he was going to retire from the military before anything ever happened. And so when everything went down, they had basically denied his request. And so I was about to go into the second surgery, and my mother was raising myself, my brother, and my cousin at the time. And my father was about to be gone overseas at war. And so she was going to be going through this whole entire journey alone. So thinking back to that time, and even I was aware that my father was potentially going to have to be shipped off. And so I remember thinking back to that time and the amount of peace that my mom had. There was never a moment where she showed that she was frantic, that she was afraid, that she was frustrated, she was angry. No, there was the entirety of the journey was a journey of peace. And crazy turn of events, my father actually didn't end up getting shipped out. They actually say within an hour of him getting shipped out overseas, there were orders that came from above and said, Mr. Lee is not supposed to be going. And so within an hour of him actually shipping out, he got word that he had actually retired. And so he did not have to get them. And he was able to deal with my mother along the entirety of the journey. So my mother really was facing just some crazy odds that were against her during that whole entire time. And she just had a peace about her. And I think that was what really translated through every single doctor's visit, through me being in the hospital, through the surgery. She was by my side every single step of the way, and really strengthening me and encouraging me. And here's the deal, like, she was a praying mother. She had faith. But what I remember most was her presence. What I remember most was, here's the deal. There might be people who are listening right now who are not faith people, maybe don't even believe in Jesus. I think this transcends across any story in any culture, in any belief system, is that there are people in our lives who just have that presence, who they just show up. And that was my mother for me. Her presence spoke volumes. I mean, there were moments I remember being a child, a kindergartner, not knowing what I was stepping into, but having the confidence because I saw the countenance of my mother, because I knew my mother was present, because I knew my mother was the savior, because I knew my mother had my best interest. And so her presence just spoke volumes and gave me the courage, really, I mean, as a child, to go through what could have been a very traumatic surgery. She gave me a peace. And I was obviously, being a person of faith, I know that peace was from the God of the universe. And that's my story. And maybe that's not everybody else's story, but that was my story and my mother.
Man, Sam, when you think about this child and all these uncertainties, but to find that the presence of what happens on the secret. So I am sure she was on the secret place, crying out to God, crying tears. But then when she was with you, she was present. You know what I'm hearing you, Sam, saying is, and not only was she present, but she radiated this peace within her that gave you peace, and that peace was found on the secret place by herself, seeking the Lord, which is so powerful. So Sam, at what point did you feel there was a shift happening? You know, I'm pretty sure you're going through all these traumatic experiences and having to go back to the doctor again. Now you remember, and now you know what's going on. Now you know what's up. Wait, at what point did you feel there was a shift of circumstances in this whole entire crazy moment of that you experiencing?
Mhm. Well, the initial surgery, I don't have I don't have any real memories of it. But this is one like story that I'm told about, and it's still on even even the research it and just like visualize this story and what took place. But it was the moment when I came back to the doctor's office, and I had several doctor's visits leading up to this moment. But coming back into the doctor's office for the first time, walking and using my legs to go down the hallway, and I hear stories from family how when my mother and I entered into the doctor's office that day, everyone in the offices came out. Everyone, I mean, nurses, doctors, everyone, because this was something, and at the time, this was a very rare surgery. This was not a surgery that was performed very often. So everyone had this doubt that I would ever be able to walk. And so here I come walking down and this the visual of this long hallway and nurses and doctors standing on the outside, tears in their eyes, bawling, and just seeing me waddle and make my way down the hall, and doctors hand over their mouth in unbelief. And this is the most interesting part of the whole entire story is that I became known as, remember, even growing up, going back to the doctor's office, I became known as the miracle child. This is from the mouths of doctors. This is from the mouths of people who were not people of faith, people who didn't believe. They had to recognize that something supernatural took place. They had to recognize that there was an intervention from something divine. Whether they understood it or they didn't understand it, what they didn't know was something divine had taken place. And so the story in it transcended culture, religion, and God got the glory for it. Like it wasn't about that. No one was saying, "Oh, he's strong." It was like this is a miracle, and I think so. I say that to say though I don't remember, I have a recollection of it. That moment still was impressed on me because of the stories that have been told. I'll never forget that story. I mean, my parents, my mother, my father are always telling me that story, and so, anyways, I think it's a major shift. It's a moment, for everyone.
Man, that got chills when you were talking. I was literally almost picturing this moment and wanted to insert Sam that the circumstances were a tool that God used for his glory to be manifested. And many of you feel like there's no hope for you, that your life is a failure. And I just want to tell you that God can use for his glory. I feel this power with what you were sharing is that God is can receive the glory even despite our circumstances. But Sam, did you continue to have surgeries, or was just one, or it was a process? And at what point did you just like, you know what, I'm not gonna let this stop me. I'm gonna follow my dreams. I know you are a incredible basketball player. For what I hear, you run freaking marathons. So I just want to hear what happened. Did they like fix you completely?
Yeah. So I'll maybe speak to the surgery that I remember in kindergarten. I remember the process of learning how to walk. I remember the process of being in a wheelchair. I remember that process very vividly. I remember even going back to school and realizing that all of my friends were running and playing, and I wasn't, and kind of looking out and seeing that wasn't my reality. I wasn't going to be able to play the sports and football. And so really, I mean, they had fixed me. That surgery had done what it was supposed to do. But I really grew up always hearing and knowing that there were going to be limitations. I wasn't allowed to jump on a trampoline for my life growing up. I was told that I wouldn't be able to play football. And so really there was a lot of unknown revolving my circumstance from a very young age. So you're thinking about an elementary age kid who is taking in this information that he may never be as tall as he was supposed to be, or he may never be able to wrestle in his life, or he may never be able to play football. and year after year after year going back to the doctors and asking them, hey, is my back healed enough for me to be able to play football? Am I healed enough for me to be able to jump on a trampoline? Are there things that I can do? And obviously, there's some things that I've started gaining access to as my back and my body morphed and it molded and it became stronger. But I remember having the conversation in middle school where the doctor was like, hey, I have to be honest with you, you're never going to be able to play football. And that being a really big thing for me because I loved football. I thought, I want to play football. I want to football. I want to be in middle school football and go to high school and maybe go to college. And I remember them being like, yeah, that's not in the cards for you. And so from a very young age, from middle school, high school, I was hearing some really hard news and I was having to learn how to cope and I was having to learn how to really process some of these emotions and some of these feelings from a very young age. And so, but honestly, I never allowed those things to stop me. My question then became, if I can't do those things, what can I do? So it was never a question of like, I think a lot of the times we globalize and generalize our limitations. And so therefore we think we can't do anything. So it wasn't that I couldn't do anything. Well, let me pick up a baseball. And so I started playing baseball at a young age. I said, well, I can't play football. Let me play basketball. Well, I can't do, these specific things. I can't wrestle. Well, let me pick up an instrument. And so for me, the question was there was never a hyper focus on what I couldn't do. It was more so, okay, maybe those things I can't do, but what can I do? There's so many other things that I can do. And I also attribute that to great parents because my parents never allowed me to see my situation as a limitation. They never allowed me to see it that way. There was always my mother on a daily basis said, I believe in you. You can do anything. I mean, there was so much encouragement from my mother and from my father. So I never really saw it as a limitation. There were things I saw, I was like, oh, I can't do those things, but there was always so many other options and so many other things that were available to me that I never saw it as a limitation. And I would say like, I saw the impact of my story from a very young age on other people's lives. And so it never felt like, oh, this is, my kryptonite. I felt like this was actually my superpower. I felt like that actually all the things that I've been through was actually the very catalyst that would propel me into the future, into my destiny. And so I always had this vision and this idea, even from a very young age, it's because my parents implemented it into me, that my story was way bigger than myself. And I felt that belief from a very young age, like, was pivotal for me. There are people who never understand that their story is bigger than themselves. And I had to learn that from a middle school age. I had to learn that in high school, that this story was so much bigger than myself. And I saw the impact that it had on other people's lives. And I said, this is not a waste. This is not for nothing. This has purpose. Now, were there struggles in my life? Like, were there moments in my life where I wished I could have done something? Yeah, of course. There were moments in my life where, I'll be completely honest with you, like a very brief moment in my life, but I felt like it was just a sick joke. Like, I got healed, but there were still things I couldn't do. And so I'm like, wait, God, what do you mean? I got this healing, but there was some other also damage like to my nerves that would affect me in some other medical situations that I even still struggle with today. And so I thought for a season of my life, man, is this like a sick joke? Like you kind of got me. It's like almost dangling something in front of you. Like you'll get part of your healing, but I think the fullness of the story, looking at the fullness of the story, had I not gone through what I had gone through, I wouldn't have the conversations I've been able to have with so many people who have felt like they're limited. So many people who have gone through something I've been through. I share my story so many times that people come up to me weeping and crying because they're like, that's exactly what I'm going through right here and right now. And so it's not a waste. Nothing is ever wasted. I'm like, no, this is my superpower. And so it's a perspective that I think I was able to develop from a very young age. That I think if people who are going through really hard things right now will see their situation bigger than themselves, then they'll be able to say, you know what, this isn't a limitation for me. This is fully.
Wow. Man, I love that. And I love this thing. It's just so empowering what you're saying, Sam. And now with so many men who are listening, you have come to a place in your life when you have tried it and it may not work. And I'm just going to encourage you, just listen to the Lord, because it's not that he's done with you or he's not care about you. He may have a different path for you. And you just have to be willing to accept that it's not going to look the way that you want it to look, but it's going to look exactly the way that he wanted to look. And what is so powerful about what you're sharing, Sammy, is the fact that you being able to use this as a actually superpower to impact people, to share to people, to tell people there is a joy in the midst of your circumstances. And perspective is so important. I just blown away, Sam. But if you can just tell us, uh, now that you've gone in, and obviously all that is a legacy that you're building, and you're putting these blocks of legacy as you're building this incredible tower that one day people are going to look at as a somebody with resilience and faith and determination. One day the people that look up to you, even today, the young people that you left in your world, the people that you left in Authentic, the people that you continue to impact are seeing that legacy that you're building. But today, where are you in your journey, and how you're continue to overcoming the challenges that may come your way as you're pursuing your own calling?
Yeah, yeah. I love where I'm at today. We made a faith step to move to Austin, and that was a huge step. We would have never even imagined we'd be leaving Dallas. There was love and a desire for Dallas. And so today I'm in a healthy, good environment. I'm where I'm supposed to be. That's what I would say. I think a lot of times people look at their seasons and they want to compare them, and they want to say, was this better or worse than last season? That's not really the comparison. For me, it's like, am I just in the right place? I think being in the right position is so important. And so I feel like my wife and I are in the right place, and we're seeing the fruits of it. We're seeing God move in it. And I just want to honor even my Pastor Brad, and the house that I'm in. It's such a safe environment that cultivates gifts. And Roger, I mean, the reality of it is my heart is heavy because not all churches are safe churches. And I wish that was the case. But I'm seeing how much of an advantage and how beautiful it is to be a part of a safe community in a safe church with a safe pastor. Because the reality is, I've seen some of my greatest heroes in the faith fall on so many different things that have just been in our world. And here's the deal: no one's perfect. I understand that. I cross no judgment. There's grace in my heart. But to be able to be in a church where it's just safe, where I know the motives of our pastor, where I can have communication with him, where he's with the people, where it's no facade, where it feels authentic, where it feels genuine, where he's grace-filled, like that it's the perfect environment for things to grow. And so I think with a mixture of that, a mixture of just God's grace and actual determination, and God just giving us a plan, with the young adult ministry, we are seeing so much fruit. We started this ministry with 60 people, and that was back in 2023. By the end of 2023, we were averaging 185 young adults. Then we start off the new year, we have 200 young adults coming. And then by the end of that year, we were at probably 260, 270.
Wow.
And now, Roger, we have averaged 400 or more for the past 7 weeks in a row. It's crazy. And here's the deal: numbers represent souls. These are souls.
Amen.
These are young adults who are coming through the doors, and they were lost before. These are young adults who are coming through the doors, and there was no hope. These are young adults who have first stories of they were going to take their lives. These are young adults who are purposeless, and they're coming through the doors, and they're having a radical encounter with Jesus that changes everything. And Roger, I got to be honest with you, the environment that we're in, I love this environment. I think everything we've been through up until this moment in our life has brought us to this moment where we're in Austin, Texas. This is not Dallas. This is the hole in the Bible Belt, if you will. This is Austin. I would say there are churches, but it is not a church city. That's not, and there is even some hostility towards Christianity in my city. It's the reality of it. And so the people who are coming through the doors are brand new to the faith. Last year we had over 200 people give their life to Jesus through our ministry. This is the type of talent impact that I've always wanted to be able to have. And so my wife and I are having it, and we give glory to God. We're keeping our heads in the right places. We're not boasting. We're not getting too prideful. When those thoughts want to come on us, we're keeping our hearts in check. But we also understand something, Roger, and I think that people in ministry don't want to acknowledge this, is that there's a strategy to this, and that we know what works. We're not just willy-nilly like, oh, we're just praying and just running around, just doing whatever, and we're going to see what's... No. We know what works, and we should. We have a strategy from the God of the universe. who has given us all the wisdom, all the knowledge. And so therefore we're just implementing his strategy, and he just brought it to us, and it's just going. And so we're flowing, and like young adults are getting on fire.
That's
Last year there was over
awesome.
30 young adults who said, I feel called to the ministry field, who we've been able to pray for and been able to equip. I mean, this is astronomical. I'm like, I would have never imagined. And I just feel like God's saying this is just the beginning. That's what I
Mm.
like you said. This is just the beginning. And so we are honored. We are blessed. We our hearts are so filled with joy where we are in this season of our life.
Man, that is super powerful, Sam. I thank you so much for sharing that. And I can
Yeah.
hear, I can feel, I can almost sense the passion. And I am like you said, to God be the glory for what He has continued to do through you and your wife and your ministry, and for the house that have allow you to continue to expand on your ministry. And just to finish up, I want to ask you if there was a word that you can tell people who may have not experience healing in their lives, and they may be struggling still with physical challenges that they prevents them from to do what they really want to do. What would you tell them? And then also, if your mom and your grandma were here today, what would you tell them about the legacy that you're building today?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, such a great question. To answer the first question, what I would say is stop waiting for your external circumstances to change and change your internal world. I can't promise you that your external world is going to change, but I can promise you that your internal world can. And we see this through Jesus' walk in his ministry. He always does internal healing before he does an external healing. And I believe that no matter where you are today with physical healing, whether you believe in it or you don't believe in it, I believe that there is a restoration that God wants to bring to your soul. I believe if you're here today and you're not sure about this Jesus thing, I'm with you. For the person in the room who's like, I'm not really sure if I even believe in this whole Jesus thing, is there might be something he wants to heal on the inside of you today. And if you'll give him the opportunity, he can do that with
That's
just a
good.
simple conversation, just wanting to start that conversation with you. And so that's what I would say is don't wait for your external world to change.
That's good.
Start to change your internal
That's good.
world and then let that overflow into the external. The other thing I would say is I'm a person of faith. I believe in healing. I'm going to bet on healing more than not. I know there's people who have said, man, it's dangerous to get people's hopes up. It's dangerous to believe in the healings. But here's the deal. And until now, you don't know my story. I'm speaking from my story that a miracle happened in my life. And so who am I to believe a miracle can happen in my life and a miracle can't happen in your life? Who am I to believe that the scriptures we speak about with healing are only for the New Testament or only for the Old Testament? Who am I to judge that what Jesus meant when he said, ask anything in my name and it'll happen? He meant some things or just partially or maybe
Mhm.
sometimes. Here's the deal. I'm gonna bet on faith. And if I get my feelings hurt, so good, man. I'm gonna put these feelings out there. I'm gonna put my emotions out there. There's a healing I'm praying for right now in my body right now. And one of these days I'll be able to share it and you'll be able to rejoice with me. But here's the deal. I'm putting my emotions on the line. There are moments where I weep, where I cry, where I'm praying fervently, come and heal this. Would you make this happen? Would you make this possible? And here's the deal. I'm not going to stop because some people say, well, I don't know if God is really going to do it. No, I'm going to believe. So I would say that to my mother and to my mother, the only words that are appropriate is thank you. And thank you for your presence. Thank you for being praying women. Thank you for your resilience. Thank you for modeling what faith really looks like in the real world. Thank you for showing me what a woman of God looks like and what to look for whenever I found my spouse. Like it's gratitude. What I would say to them is there's still fruit of the
Mhm.
seeds that they planted in my life that they're going to reap. And I believe that they're just going to go from glory to glory. That's what I believe. I believe that's my greater blessing because they showed faith, they showed seed, they showed prayers, they kept on believing. And I believe God's not done with that. He didn't just bless them back then, he's going to continue to bless them now. So that's what I'm praying
That's
for. That's what I
awesome.
would say.
That's awesome. Well, that is fantastic, Sam. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for sharing such an inspiring story.
Of
Thank you
course.
for making time and for being vulnerable, for being open, and for being transparent to your life. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you so much. It was inspiring moment. And for all of you who are listening today, I want to leave you with this. It doesn't matter what obstacles you were born with. It could be a physical obstacle or impediment or a emotional or even generational sin that is passed through you. That doesn't define who you are. That doesn't determine where you're going and what God has purpose for your life. Today, I want to tell you, regardless what you're going through, regardless what you're facing, this is not the end. God has a purpose in your life. There is a gift in your life. And I'll just encourage you to step into that purpose and continue to build your legacy. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being with us. Please share it with somebody. Subscribe so you can be up to date with the new episodes. And thank you again. Have a blessed day.